Hi there, I'm Kathleen Jasper, and today we're going to be talking about whether or not you should switch schools and teach at another school or another district or try to get a job maybe downtown, and some questions you can ask yourself before making that decision. Let's get started. All right, so we're coming to the end of the year and we are all a little bit fried. We're wondering, do I want to stay at this school? You may have had some difficult times at the school you're in. You might be extremely tired, like my dog who was laying over here, totally passed out in my office. And you might be thinking that another school might be better for you, or that working under a different principal would be better for you. And it may be better for you. It may be time for a change. But there are a few things I want to talk about before you make that decision, and some things we kind of need to talk to ourselves about and kind of self-reflect on. And I do this because I myself have changed schools, changed jobs, quit education altogether. And I learned a lot along the way. So I thought I would talk to you a little bit about that today. So the first thing is, you may be feeling burnt out. You may dislike your principal and you may want a change. And so some things I'd like you to just kind of evaluate before you just, say, I'm leaving this school, I'm going to work for another principal. Number one is, what is it that is making you uncomfortable or feeling like you don't want to continue at the school you are in? So perhaps you have a personality conflict with the administration. So maybe you dislike your principal, you don't like the way he or she does things, or someone on the admin staff, and that may be too much for you. You may not be able to deal with that. But there's a couple things I want you to consider before leaving the school you are at because of that one decision. First of all, I've been both a teacher and an assistant principal. And so I've seen both sides of the coin, or whatever you want to call it. And I know that when I was a teacher, I only saw what was going on in my classroom. So I had tunnel vision. It was me and my students. Now I had 150 students because I was a high school biology teacher and English teacher. So I had lots of students. But once I closed the door to my classroom, that was it. I only saw what was going on in my classroom. When I became an assistant principal, I became very aware that all day there were crazy things happening all over the school. There were angry parents in the office from the moment the bell rang to start the school day until the moment it ends. There were students who might have medical conditions. We had a lot of seizures, a lot of kids passing out, the ambulance had to come to school lots of times to help students. We have students who are doing bad things like using drugs in the bathroom, vaping, things like that have to be tended to. We have teachers who might be melting down and need a break, need help, need support. We also have students who are being sent to our offices because they are misbehaving. They are not doing the right thing. And so we have a line of students out of our offices that, have to be taken care of, because if a referral is written, that's a legal document. You have to get to it within 24 hours and you have to process those students. Then we have the ISS room. Then we have the special education room. We have all of these things going on. We're trying to get into classrooms because we told the English teacher, the 10th grade English teacher, that we'd be in there to observe her class. And we know that she has probably prepared a beautiful lesson for us, because that's what happens when you say you're going to be in there and you get pulled away because there's an emergency. And now the teacher's mad at you because you didn't make it to her class. And so what I noticed when I became an assistant principal is that there's a whole other world out there beyond the door to my classroom that I didn't realize. And I started to understand why principals and assistant principals were so busy. And obviously that gives me a perspective that a lot of other teachers don't have. If you're a teacher and you haven't been an AP, then you don't have that perspective. But I just encourage you to kind of be a little bit more open-minded about your admin. Now, I understand teachers do not feel supported by their administration. And a lot of times they feel like they're not given the proper amount of tools or the right amount of support. But being negative about your admin or your principal is something that can be very detrimental to you, even when you're going on to seek another job. Let me give you an example. So we had teachers who were negative about us when I was an admin. And I will tell you, there were times where I was negative about my admin too when I was a teacher. Now, it wasn't all the time. I wasn't constantly just talking bad about the principal or the admin, but you get frustrated, you blow off a little steam and you're like, ugh, she doesn't know what she's doing. Those types of conversations happen all the time in every job. But if you are constantly talking smack about your admin, your principal, your assistant principals, whatever, it's getting back to them. They know. We knew who was talking bad about us because teachers come up and tell us. And you may say, no, I only talk bad about my principal to my bestie, my teacher bestie. That may be true. And I'm not saying your teacher bestie is going to the principal on you. You guys may not tell on each other, but somebody is hearing you talk bad about the admin and they're going and telling the admin 100%. So if you are putting that kind of energy out there, you might be feeling some negativity back because your admin knows that you're talking bad about them. Now, is that the right thing to do? Like if you're in a leadership position, should you be petty and be mean or something? No, but you may feel a little bit of a frosty vibe between you and the admin if you've been talking smack about them for the last 6 months, because they do know, trust me. The other thing is, if you're constantly in this negative space, it's going to bring negativity to you. Now, I'm going to use myself as an example because I have been negative. There was one year I was pregnant. I was so sick. My nausea was so bad and my kids were brutal. It was my worst year. It was the hardest year. And I taught intensive reading. So I had high school intensive reading students. They didn't want to be in my class. I didn't want to be in my class. Nobody wanted to be in my class. And I was just negative all the time. I was talking smack about admin. I was talking smack about my students. I was talking badly about other teachers, the profession as a whole. I had nothing positive to say about anyone or anything for about 9 months until I finally had the baby. And people didn't want to be around me. They were like, they could see me walking through the halls and they duck me, because who wants to listen to somebody complain all day, every day? And it brings everybody down. Now, again, blowing off some steam, feeling overwhelmed, totally understandable. Blow off that steam to your teacher bestie or go have a cocktail after work and blow it off. But if you're constantly negative and talking bad about the profession, the students, the principal, and everybody else, we may want to reflect and say, how am I contributing to this? And now that there's been some time and space away from it, I can see how negative I was and how I brought that kind of negative energy back to me. So try to stay as positive as you can. If you're hanging around a lot of negative people, that could be bringing you down as well. So, if your bestie or your next door neighbor is just constantly just hitting you with like bad thing after bad thing, you're going to start feeling that. And so you might want to change up your routine a little bit. I'm not saying dump your bestie, but you may want to say, hey, I can't do negative today. I got to do positive. And, I've seen a lot of these accounts on TikTok and YouTube and things like that, where some of the teachers have a lot of negative things to say. And I get it. It's funny. I laugh at a lot of them. And it's anger and it's a place for us to kind of air our frustrations and things like that. But the thing is, it's like, if that's your only shtick, if that's all you got, you're just putting negativity out into the world constantly. And so, I tell funny stories about being negative and getting my butt kicked by my students and falling on my face and crazy parents and things like that. And it's cool. It's funny, whatever. But if that's the constant thing you're putting out into the ether, it's never going to give you back a really good vibe. And so what I would say is do a little bit of self-reflection. We talk about this a lot on the tests and things like that. What am I doing? Let's be real here. Where am I being negative? Where am I not contributing a positive vibe to the situation, and be honest with yourself. You don't have to share it with anybody. Just share it with yourself and say, I might be able to lighten up a little bit. I might be able to let some things go here and work on myself. Because I'll tell you, if you're having a hard time at one school with everybody, like you don't like the principal, you don't like the assistant principal, you don't like the media specialist, you don't like the students, you don't like the parents, you don't like anything, you're probably not going to like that at another school either. So you're just kind of switching schools and bringing the same baggage with you. Now, if you are someone who, it's just time for a change. You've been at the school maybe 5 or 6 years. You'd like to work under another principal who does things a little bit differently, maybe who's more data driven or someone who's trying a new thing at their school, whatever it is, then that's maybe a reason to change. Perhaps you do have a personality conflict with your principal and you like everything else about the school, but you just can't get along with this principal. It might be time to change as well. But again, I want you to kind of evaluate your motives. Are you beefing with everybody, or are you just beefing with that one principal? Okay. Now, if it is just like you and this principal do not jive and you really feel like you need to move schools, apply. But here's my advice to you. Do not talk bad about that principal in an interview. Do not say, I just couldn't get along with so-and-so at this school. Number one, admins stick together just like teachers stick together. And principals might know that your principal is not the nicest person in the world. But when you express that in an interview, it gives a red flag, lots of red flags. Because why would I want to bring you into my school if I'm a principal or an assistant principal, and the whole time during the interview, you've been talking bad about another principal? Don't do that. So just say things like, I've learned a lot. I really want to just try something new. And talk about the new school. I notice you do X, Y, and Z. I really want to get involved in that. I'm so grateful for the experience I've had at this school, but I'd really like to kind of broaden my horizons a little bit. Thanking the experience, the principal for the experience that you've had. Do not talk bad about admin in an interview at another school, because it's just not a good look. All right, so that's it for today. Hopefully that helps you in thinking about whether or not you should switch schools. And if you're having a tough time, with your principal or your admin or just the position as a whole, being a teacher is tough. And I so appreciate what you are doing. And many, many people do. Just because you hear some loud, angry voices does not mean that is the majority. Your students appreciate you. Your admin appreciates you. And I appreciate you. So keep going, keep trying, and do what's best for you, but just self-reflect a little and see what's really going on. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave them in the comments. Consider subscribing to this YouTube channel and liking this video. And I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.